How's it going, my dreamers? This is Born to Dream, here with a sort of longish but hopefully helpful guide for you guys on soloing Machamp. Be sure to leave a like down below if you're enjoying the video. Subscribe for some more Pokemon Go content, and be sure to check out the playlist in the description down below if you have missed any previous Pokemon Go raid boss guides. I think that's all I'm going to do for right now. This is the first one of the guides that I'm doing, so if you're not seeing any other guides, it's probably because I haven't made the videos yet. But this is going to be the first of a few. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So today we're going to be talking about solo raiding Machamp, and you can see here I have the stats and the movesets for Machamp, and we'll go ahead and get into this. So for Machamp, we are looking at a 234 physical attack, 18th ranked. I don't think it's too terribly high. Gengar, I know, is in the top 6. Alakazam's probably up there as well. So Machamp isn't too bad. Defenses, 162. Stamina, 180. So it is definitely soloable. It's actually, in my opinion, the easiest to solo out of the 7 level 3 bosses, and we're looking at a max CP of 2,889. If you are taking on a raid boss Machamp and you want to see if you can get a perfect Machamp, the perfect CP for Machamp is 1650. So that's all you need to know statistically from Machamp. It is a fighting type, it's weak to psychic, and ghost types are good against it too. Flying types as well. Machamp doesn't have too many weaknesses as a fighting type, but there are some mons that he can't cover. So we'll go ahead and jump into the moveset. Machamp actually has a lot of legacy movesets here, and a lot of forgettable ones like Stone Edge. But anyways, the ones we are looking for are Counter Dynamic Punch, Counter Close Combat. What else we got? Let's see. Counter Heavy Slam, Bullet Punch Dynamic Punch, Bullet Punch Close Combat, and Bullet Punch Heavy Slam. So those are the movesets that you are looking for from a raid boss Machamp. Those are the only movesets that you have to worry about if you want to solo a raid boss Machamp. And the fighting moves are a little bit easier than the steel moves, because the fighting moves you can use, certain psychic types, certain ghost types to resist Machamp, and steel isn't the same deal. I know I was rhyming there, but it's not the same thing. Like, you probably want to use some fire types against it, but we'll get into that right now. So the mons that you want to use against a raid boss Machamp are right here. So the supreme counters to Machamp are going to be Lugia and Mewtwo. And I know what you guys are thinking. You probably don't have either one of those two. I don't blame you, because Mewtwo is ridiculously hard to get, and Lugia is only around for a limited time, so there's a good chance that some of you don't have any of those Pokemon. And that is fine. If you don't have those Pokemon, you're looking at these 7 Pokemon right here: Moltres, Alakazam, Espeon, Dragonite, Exeggutor, Gengar, and Charizard. You guys might also not have Moltres, so you'd be worried about these 6 Pokemon right here. The ones I personally like are, out of this list, are Alakazam, Espeon, and Gengar. But one thing to note about Gengar and about Charizard and about Moltres here is it's really dependent on moveset. If you're going in with Gengar on a double steel Machamp, you're probably not going to have a good time. Whereas Moltres and Charizard, I mean, you could use it against fighting, but I think they're primarily here for the double steel moveset. But I guess, I mean, I think it might be better to use super effective mons like Espeon and Alakazam over Moltres, but it's entirely up to you. I'm not a huge fan of Executor, mostly because it's a little hard to dodge with Executor, but if you want to just go in with raw power, you can go with Executor, and Executor is a raid boss of its own, so there's that as well if you want to stock up on a bunch of Executors. I don't know if you can do it with 6 Executors. Maybe you could. I don't think Machamp is too difficult, but what I would recommend is Alakazam, Espeon, and Gengar, especially if you have Legacy Moveset Gengar. Legacy Moveset Gengar is a beast. So, another thing that I want to mention is you kind of want to stay away from Confusion if you can. If you want just flat out DPS on a Machamp, if you want to do as much damage, as much quick move damage on Machamp as you possibly can, you might be able to get away with Confusion. But I personally like to be able to dodge against some raid bosses at critical points. Like when they're using their charge move, I want to be able to dodge with Psycho Cut Alakazam versus, you know, risking using a Confusion and then a close combat hits me and then boom, Alakazam's done and I have to go into another mon. So, that is basically the list right there. Again, Machamp isn't too difficult, but a lot of people do struggle with Bullet Punch Heavy Slam. That's when you want to use Charizard and Moltres. But it's mostly because you can't resist with any other Pokemon except for those two, and I don't think those two would do as much DPS as any of these Pokemon here. So a lot of people do struggle with Bullet Punch Heavy Slam Machamp, but if you're going up against Bullet Punch fighting or double fighting, I don't think Machamp is too difficult. So we'll go ahead and jump into the battles right now. Okay, so the first one we will be doing is we will be doing a counter close combat Machamp. This shouldn't be too difficult for, well, depending on your level, it might be a little difficult. I would suggest if you are going to solo Machamp, I mean, you could honestly be like from 26 to 30. Level really doesn't matter too much in Pokemon Go. Once when you get to a certain level, it doesn't matter. Like, at that point, you're dependent on like what Pokemon you have powered up, your best Pokemon and stuff like that. And it's more when you're doing solo raids, you have to figure out like what level 3 boss your team can best solo against. So if you, for example, if you have a lot of Psychic types, Machamp might be your best bet. If you have a lot of Grass types, Vaporeon might be your best bet. So it's basically based off of that. But I would say 26 to 30 is right around the point where you want to be able to solo Machamp. As you can see, I went in first with my Gengar because Gengar is a glass cannon, but Gengar can do the most damage. And generally speaking, you want to use your glass cannons first, and then you want to get into your tanks later on because your glass cannons can do a lot of damage in the beginning while the raid boss is trying to power up its charge move. It can tank a lot of the quick moves. It can hopefully tank a lot of the quick moves while doing a lot of damage back. And as you can see, using the Legacy Gengar first really helped me in this match against Machamp, as it took out probably like 30 to 35% of its HP, which is huge in a raid boss battle. So, also when you're soloing, you gotta know how to, one of the best times is to dodge. So, I figured at that point that if I could dodge a close combat, I could get off another future sight, and that's exactly what happened. So learning when to dodge is a big thing. You don't dodge when you're at full HP, obviously, because you want sometimes you want the charge move to hit, so that way you can get closer to getting a charge move off. Because if you get hit by a close combat, for example, see how fast that charge bar went up when I got hit with a close combat. I got knocked out, but you can see how much it fills up your charge meter when you get hit by a strong close combat from a raid boss Machamp. It's a difference between getting a extra future sight off and not get an extra feature set off. So knowing when to dodge is the best thing. You know, that sort of thing. And I managed to take out this Machamp in about 20 seconds. 21 seconds, I would say, is when I managed to beat this Machamp. I didn't really have to use Lugia for this battle. I could have used another Alakazam or an Espeon if I had another Espeon against that Machamp. But I decided to put Lugia in the back because, again, Lugia is a tank. Now, if you don't have Lugia, you probably are going to be lacking tanks. So you'll probably end up using quote-unquote glass cannons like Espeon and Alakazam. It's really important that you know that you have a strategy. So, like, for example, if you're going to use a bunch of Fusion, Alakazams, Espeon, you probably want to go full DPS. Like, you don't want to dodge or anything like that. You just want to go full on DPS. So, versus if you're using like Psycho Cut and like Zen Headbutt, you probably want to dodge a little more. So have a strategy before you jump into these things. That is what you want to do. So this one is going to be against counter Dynamic Punch. I did have some connection issues with this battle, so maybe I might do a different one later on. But this right here kind of shows you how strong Lugia and Legacy Gengar are if you have those two. It also shows how much Dynamic Punch can like really rip through you. Dynamic Punch is definitely a hard move to deal with. I would suggest not dodging with Dynamic Punch unless you feel it's absolutely crucial in those split seconds to dodge, because it's a 2-charge move. And if you do, sometimes if you dodge one Dynamic Punch, you might get hit with another Dynamic Punch right afterwards, which might be the case right here. No, it didn't happen. Sometimes the raid boss will use 2 Dynamic Punches in a row, and that's kind of problematic if you're in there with an Alakazam, for example, and you know, you get hit by 2. You dodge one Dynamic Punch, but then get hit by the second one. It's kind of a big deal. But pretty much, if you have a Lugia, you can pretty much solo Machamp, like, really easily. And then Gengar, I mean, you don't have to use Legacy Gengar to solo Machamp, obviously. Hex works, but Hex is a little slower than Shadow Claw, and I think Shadow Claw does more damage too. So it's generally recommended if you have a Hex or a Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball Gengar, to use that Gengar, but you know, not everybody has that. So I did manage to dodge one of these Dynamic Punches, which I think helped me get an extra Shadow Ball off, but I didn't get the last one off there, unfortunately. It took me out before I was able to do that. But I mean, you can see the work that Lugia and Gengar did. I'm almost soloed this Machamp. Like, I just needed these Alakazams to clean things up, and this Machamp was pretty much taken care of. So yeah, I also forgot to mention, when you're solo raiding, you want to obviously keep an eye on the HP, obviously. But when I solo raid, usually what I try to look for in the HP bar is I try to get the HP bar down to yellow before 90 seconds, and then yeah, I wasn't able to get that last feature set off. That might have mattered, but when you're trying to get to the red, I would say at around 50 seconds. It could be a little less, like 88 seconds or, you know, 47 seconds, but I mean, it all depends on what you're planning to do with your team. So, you know, if you have a Mon in the back that can do a lot of DPS, I mean, that doesn't matter as much as if you have a lot of tanks in the back and you want to do as much damage as you can with your glass cannons before you get to your tanks. So, but I would say in general, trying to get your Pokemon, I would say in general, trying to get the yellow bar at like 90 seconds or try and get the red bar at 50 seconds is your best bet. Otherwise, if you can't get it at that point, you're probably not going to be able to succeed the solo raid. You might have to start again, or you might have to quit. But yeah, and excuse my throws here. The connection was kind of shitty, so I kind of messed up on a few throws here, but yeah. So next up, we have Bullet Punch Heavy Slam Machamp, and this is definitely the hardest of Machamp's movesets to do, and if you are able to do this moveset, congratulations, you are pretty much done with Machamp. You could pretty much walk into any Machamp raid, solo it, and not even care. Like, you're just the most amazing Machamp solo player ever after you solo this. I didn't mean to make it sound too over dramatic, but it is very hard to do. The level recommendations I gave you guys earlier, I would say you probably want to bump those up to like 32, 33, because this is not an easy moveset to do. This is still Machamp, but the reason why it's not too easy to do is because a lot of the Pokemon that you would normally use against Machamp are frail, and Machamp can do a lot of damage to those Mons because Heavy Slam is neutral on those Mons, and so if I ever get hit by one, you guys can see how much that does to my Alakazams. It does quite a bit of damage, but as you can see, I'm kind of a little too dodge happy with this Heavy Slam Machamp early on, and it almost cost me this match. I wouldn't say dodge as much as I did here, but I think you do need to dodge a little bit, unless you have like a team full of Charizards and Moltres that can just eat these hits, which I don't even know if you'd be able to solo raid with a bunch of Moltres. You probably could, but I don't think anybody wants to put in that much Stardust into a bunch of Moltres teams just to solo raid a Machamp. So you do want to dodge some of the heavy slams, but you don't want to dodge every single one, obviously, because otherwise you won't be able to do enough damage, and then you fail the solo run. This is why people don't really like this moveset for Machamp, but I mean, it is doable, and as you can see, that's what I'm doing for you guys here. Lugia is also great for Bullet Punch Heavy Slam Machamp. I understand that you guys might not have Lugia, so I'm not sure what else you can do to tank hits. You just gotta be able to do as much DPS as you can while also being able to know when to dodge. I'll say that a lot in these guides, but that's basically what it boils down to. And yeah, as you can see, I think I managed to beat this Machamp at around 15 seconds. But it will take out my Lugia, and then I use Moltres at the end. I guess if you want to, you could put Charizard as a tank if you don't have Moltres or Lugia, and put, oh, it wasn't 15, it was like probably 6 seconds. Shit. But if you want to, you could put Charizard in the back. But again, I haven't really experimented too much with Charizard. Maybe I could do that for you guys and put it up on the channel here if you guys want to see that. But I mean, it's definitely the hardest. So if you're able to do it, kudos to you. But yeah, so that's basically it for Machamp. Those are all 3 of its movesets. 2 of them had counter. 1 of them had bullet punch. Again, if you know if you fight a counter Machamp, it's probably going to do a little more damage. If you fight a bullet punch Machamp, it's probably going to do a little less damage, with some exclusions. So yeah, that's going to be it for this guide. The next guide is going to be on Vaporeon, and luckily for Vaporeon, there's not too much. Vaporeon's very, very vanilla, so I will be seeing you guys in that video. Keep living the dream. Goodbye.